Well, I will begin with two quotes. It's strange because it's a very old book that I wrote with Guattari that is coming now. It is being published in Cuba, and I was very glad with that, and I was obliged to revise it, the translation and everything, and to adapt it to nowadays and to Cuba. And then I discovered very nice things in this book that I has totally forgot. Now, the first one is this of Félix Guattari, something that we wrote already in 1980, no? Worldwide integrated capitalism. It's a notion, it's a concept, notion that he invented, no? In 1980. Capitalism is worldwide and integrated because it has potentially colonized the whole of the planet, because it currently lives in symbiosis with countries that seem to have escaped from it, such as those from the Soviet bloc, because it was before 89, no? China, and because it tends to secure that no human activity, no production sector escape its control. And then the other one is Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, 72, just after publishing L'Anti-Oedipus. We address the unconscious who protest. We are looking for allies, né? Allies. André will be my prosthesis because my English is like that. We address the unconscious who protest. We are looking for allies. Muito complicado. We need allies. We have the impression that our allies are already there, that they are ahead of us, that there are a lot of people who have had enough, who think, feel, and work in a direction analogous to ours. It is not a fashion, but something deeper, a kind of deeper times, in which convergent investigations has been developed in very different domains, okay? So, the figure of the curator, origin, tensions, and divergences. The role of conceiving and organizing a public exhibition of artworks originates in the 18th century, as we know, when this type of function was invented, and it went on to acquire through the 19th and 20th centuries in increasing importance, because it began together with the beginning of art exhibitions, no? At the 80s. However, the emergence of the figure of the curator under such name and with the characteristics that are today specific to it, as well as its proliferation and glamorization worldwide, happens because it's very chic, no? It's very glamorous, no? To be curator. Happens in the context of the financialized capitalism that begins in the mid-70s. The new regime, which today dominates the globe, has, in the force of creation, one of its main sources of energy and plus-value, no? Como se fala plus-value em inglês? Plus-value. Surplus value. And this relates mostly the field of art. Consequently, within the territory of art emerges a need for a constant negotiation between the artist, the institution where his work will be shown, no, exhibit, and especially capital. This is a new partner of this negotiation. Artist, the institution, and capital. A negotiation characterized by a dispute between their respective interests. The curator is the mediator in this dispute. This is the shift, no? From the organizer of an exhibition and curator. He is the mediator of this dispute. That's why he was born together with financialization of capitalism and financialized capitalism and neoliberal state, no? So he is the mediator in this dispute and therefore assumes a fundamental role in its destiny, the destiny of this dispute. From his or her choices will depend the perspective that is imprinted in his or her actions. In this context, there is an intensification of dissent between ways to make artworks public. This dissent, or these different ways to do that, were always there. But from that period on, there is a real confrontation between different perspectives in this negotiation. No? So it has this kind of dissent was intensified in this period. From a micropolitical point of view, what distinguishes them, those different positions in this negotiation, is basically the degree of vulnerability to art of each curator and the type of value he or she attributes to art. This will define where he or she establishes the boundary between the negotiable and the non-negotiable. The difference between, this is not very practical. Assim? He is my Metteur en scène director, Mr. Abder Halden. So the difference between these two perspectives is not neutral at all, as the effects they provoke on the subjectivity of their publics, they diverge within the field of art and beyond, in the social, political, cultural context within which the curatorial action intervenes. I will here describe two types of curator, they are kind of prototypes, no? Which occupy the opposite extremes of the vast, diverse, and complex range of perspectives of action in the field, and the type of compass that orients each of them in their practice. It's obvious these types don't exist in pure state. They are fictitious, but fictitious like fictitious, no? Fictitious characters that I will use as a tool to problematize the current state of things in the field. In order to establish these two extremes, which I will denominate curate, with Andrea and Adrian. Where is Adrian? Why you are there? I can't see. With Andrea and Adrian yesterday night, we were discussing how could we go with the two extremes, né? And we have a solution, but it's not a definitive solution, no? It's creative curator and creating curator. The problem is in English you have only the word creativity or creative, and in Latin languages you have creatif, creator, or creativo, creador, which is totally different, no? Creativity from creation. So now we'll keep creative and creating, but it's not enough. We can call also this creative curator, we can call him manager curator, and creating curator. In order to, I will invoke, in order to establish those two extremes, I will invoke two concepts which I have been working last years: the colonial unconscious and the knowing body. I call it colonial unconscious, the obstruction of the knowing body, and I will explain myself what I mean by that. The colonial character in this unconscious goes beyond the regions in the globe that have been the subject, because I call it colonial unconscious, but I must say that this qualification of colonial goes beyond the regions in the globe that have been the subject of colonizing enterprise of Western Europe since 15th century. An enterprise as you know, that is inseparable from the establishment of capitalism within economics and the nation state within politics several centuries later, the 19th. After different developments along the last 5 centuries, in a contemporary version that is based precisely in financialized capitalism and neoliberal state, this regime, colonial regime, has colonized, or capitalism, no? Has colonized the world at large to the point that we can refer to it as integrate world capitalism. As Guattari proposed already in 1980, when this regime was barely establishing itself, because the financialized capitalism, this shift from industrial to financialized capitalism began at the second part of the 70s in Europe and the United States, and then it began at the end of the dictatorships in Latin America and Soviet Union, no? During the 80s, until the end of the 80s. No? The colonial unconscious is the invisible and unsayable dimension, but not because of that, less real in its presence and effects. Of this regime, without which this regime would, the colonial unconscious is the invisible and unsayable dimension of this regime, without which the regime would not be able to maintain itself. It is its micropolitical dimension. That is, a certain way of producing subjectivity, desire, and the thought that leads desire actions, a way that is still active in today's societies under integrated worldwide capitalism. So active within us, within ourselves. Such unconscious is characterized by the obstruction of the knowing body. In order to situate what I mean by knowing body and to problematize what would tell both fictional perspectives apart, I will invoke a Brazilian artist that André was invoking yesterday. He was invoking her. Brazilian who invented specially refined dispositives to shift out from the colonial unconscious. It's Lydia Clark. No? I will focus on her proposition, caminhando. The translation is walking. So, is this work? This is Lydia Clark herself. The origin of caminhando, of walking, was a study that Lydia Clark was doing in '63 to a new series of her famous bichos. I don't know if you know a little bit, Lydia Clark sounds to you, no? Or not at all? I will not speak about her because it's not the point. I just point this particular error, okay? But then in the discussion we can develop that. In '63, which is very early, she was making a study in paper to a new series of her bichos, a series that she was working with the Möbius strip, no? The Möbius strip. Okay? This is a topological surface. And the Möbius strip, boy, you know the Möbius strip, so who don't know, you can do that? Don't be ashamed because you are not obliged to know what Möbius strip is. Thank you. Of course. The Möbius strip is a strip, if you glue the extreme of one side to the opposite, to the reverse of the other side, you have a kind of surface, the strip that you don't have inside and outside, before and after. Because if you imagine your finger, making like that. What's outside become inside. So now I will just say that, and then we will develop this idea. She was making a study with this kind of surface in order to imagine a new series of bishops, and she was doing that. The work that came from that is this one. Okay, just to have an idea. But she put the name of this work after this experience, and I will tell you what it is about. So that's why she put the name before is after. But she was doing that, no? Cutting longitudinally, the surface of this Möbius strip. And then suddenly, she felt, she had an insight that the oeuvre, the work of art, my director, the work of art was exactly this experience and not eventual result of it, not this, no? And why? Because she felt that she was living a very strange and essential experience on cutting, because the act of cutting resulted in a differentiation of the form of the, you can see, of the form of this surface, of this strip, no? So it was the experience of, it was discovering that your act, and depending on where you cut, is producing space. The space is not there, neutral, and then you cut, but the space is transformed, is becoming through your act. And also this other kind of temporality, because the cut itself is the experience of becoming temporality, and not the chronological temporality. And because in this experience of cutting this kind of surface, she has the experience of another kind of logic of time, which has no after and before, no? Which is the becoming resulting of your own act, and another experience of space that doesn't have inside, outside, because when you cut, you are cutting both surfaces, they are one singular surface, and not inside, outside, not high and low, no? And it's an experience of space, the space transformation result from your act, no? So it was an experience of another way of seeing and seeing and feeling. And she said, this is what I want with my oeuvre. This is the experience I am looking for. So she decided that this is an oeuvre that she will propose to public to do it themselves, no? Because this is this, because before that we can think retrospectively that she was looking for this until the beginning of her oeuvre in 47 through paintings and objects, but there is no guarantee at all that it will produce this kind of experience in the public, the previous oeuvre. And with that, she discovered the way, no, her way, to guarantee perhaps the possibility of this experience, which I will call aesthetical experience, but I will explain why later, okay? Just to provoke, I call that aesthetical experience, but then I will argue why. Okay, so she decided to transform it into a work of art, okay? And the work consists in to give to the public a strip, normal strip. You can do it in your house with a piece of newspaper, not with marble, no? You can take n'importe quel, any piece of paper, okay? And scissors and glue, color glue, no? And some instructions, no? Instructions. On first instruction, twist a paper strip and glue onto one of its ends the reverse side of the other end. 2. Choose any point of the surface and begin cutting from there along the strip. 3. Just one warning, and this is very important. Each time you reach a point you had cut before, avoid it in order to continue cutting. You must choose another point. Continue cutting along the strip until the surface is exhausted and there is no more space for a new cut. Okay? Bom, let's see the different consequence of our act depending on the kind of cuts we choose during our own walking. No? If we obey Lisieux-Clark instruction and we try to choose another point to cut, each time we come back to a point that we have already cut, or if you just cut always in the same point, okay? So, different consequence of your act depending on the kind of cuts you choose during your own walking. To diversify or to reproduce. First choice, to diversify. I will show the cuts if you choose to diversify. No? If you accept to choose each time a new point for your act, for your cutting act. No? Following Lisieux's instruction, so producing differences. We'll see how. So I cut, I find a point where I have already cut. I choose another point. I go on cutting, and at the end I have this form. No? My choices of my acts of cutting had produced a multiplication of the initial forms, a diversification of my initial form. Now you are saying to yourself, oh, but what has it to do with creating, please? So wait a minute, you will understand the relation, please, because I need that in order to make me understandable, okay? And I think that images are sometimes much better than words, sometimes. Because images, they are totally toxic today, but if you intervene in this, no? Bon, okay, you have this image in your mind, no? So let's see the second choice, to reproduce. I just repeat the same places where I cut before, ignoring Lisieux's instruction. Lisieux doesn't matter, no? What matters is choosing another point or repeating the same point. Forget about Lisieux. So, I'm cutting, always in the same point. The strip go on, it doesn't finish, okay? But you will see what happens, what is the consequence of your act, of your choice, or of not choosing. This is the consequence. No, the same form has repeat totally itself, just more large, no? So just to go on, before going on, just compare this, I repeat the act always in the same point, with this. I choose other points to go on with my cut, okay? It's totally different, no? If you don't see this difference, please talk to me after the conference. I can take you in therapy, or I can find a psychoanalyst for you in Germany or wherever you are, because it's very complicated. Okay, you see the difference, eh? So now we will approach a little, we will going more nearer to our point, okay? But I need this before. Let's imagine that the world, each world is a Möbius strip. A topological, because this kind of surface, Möbius strips, we call it in geometry topologic surface, okay? Topological relational, this relation has nothing to do with relational aesthetic of Bouillon, nothing to do, okay? Topological relational surface made of bodies, because it's a surface of a lot of bodies, totally related, no? Relational surface made of bodies of all kinds, human bodies or those chairs or the international crisis, it's a lot of bodies, no? Made of bodies of all kinds in diverse and variable connections. It's two inextricably linked side forms and forces. One side is the forms of the world, actual forms of the world. The other side is the world as a field of forces. But they are totally inextricably linked. When I cut both, no? I can't, for instance, take you, Ilana, no? I can't, Ilana or Alina? I can't take Alina or Joachim and just separate your form from your life energy as a living body because you're dead. No, it's inextricably linked. No? Okay. So, one side, let's begin there because this is more familiar to us. One side is the experience of, before that. We have two different, our sense organs have two different capacities to decipher forms and to decipher forces. It's not the same capacity, no? One of them we are very familiar with, it's not a problem to understand what I mean. To decipher forms, no? Is the experience, is in its experience as a subject, subjectivity apprehends the forms of a world in its actual state. I mean, it's a subjectivity, it's an experience of the subjectivity. Therefore, the subjectivity makes the experience of the forms of the world and makes the experience of the forces of the world. But the experience of the forms of the world is one dimension of subjectivity, which is the subject. And Andrea also yesterday talked about the rational subject, no, I think. Is the subject. We are so habituated to this dimension that we confound subject and subjectivity, but the experience of subjectivity is larger than that. So this experience is made through perception. I perceive forms, no? And the perception, and I feel what's going on, no? The feeling is ego and subject experience. And perception and feeling are totally structured through the actual cultural cartography or actual repertoire. No, you can't separate perception from the cultural repertoire that structured it. The same thing for the feeling. So perception is the sensible, no, the sensibility. So I call this experience a personal because it has to do with subject, the subject, sensible, perception, psychological, feelings, cultural experience, because feelings and perception are totally, they can't be separate from cultural repertoire, structure. But so I called it familiarity, the experience of familiarity, okay? And for us, it's very, very, very familiar because you say cara pálida, white pale, no, pale face, you know this expression, pale face? Bom, deixa, cara pálida. Because for us, that we are part of Western, modern culture, we are totally, this other experience is totally obstructed. So for us, in each culture, we have familiarity with the cultural cartography of the world that we are living. But for us, this familiarity is much more strong because we have only that to deal with the world, to decipher it and to make our decisions. So now I will talk a little bit about this other capacity, the capacity to decipher the forces of the world as a living being and we as a living body and we as a living body. No? And it's another part of the experience of the subjectivity, experience of the subjectivity that I will call the experience as an outside of the subject. We has a big intimacy with the subject. We know him so well since 5 centuries. We just live with, we love it, no? We hate it. But there is this other experience that is always there, even if we want or if we don't want, if we are aware of it or not, is the experience of the forces. And I call it the experience of the outside of the subject because it's the experience of the effects of the world in our body, which I will call affects. I could call, as Deleuze-Guattari, affects and percepts, but I don't want to put complicated words here because I like to find always normal words, no? Because what matters is that the world could have effects, no? So I don't like those pretentious, no? Imitation of what. Bon. Affects, no, is another way of feeling because when these effects of the forces of the world in your body produces in your subjectivity experience another way of feeling, another way of seeing, listening, no, and another way of feeling, which has no images, no words, and which make a kind of friction with our cultural repertoire. And this friction is always there, even if you don't want to know about it, no? And this friction produces an experience of strangeness. And in the effects of it in the subjectivity is a kind of unease, disquietude, because subjectivity feels like totally destabilized. Like this, como é que chama aquele judeuzinho lá, o cineasta americano? O baixinho. O cineasta americano, esqueci o nome dele, o baixinho. O judeuzinho, hã? Woody Allen. Like this film of Woody Allen, deconstructing Harry. And Harry is then in a social situation, como é que fala, de repente? Suddenly has no eyes, no mouth, he has no image about himself. This is the state of this friction between those new experiences that the experience of the world as a living body makes in our subjectivity and this friction, this tension with our cultural repertoire, no? So this, so I wrote here, in its experience as an outside of the subject, subjectivity apprehends the forces of our world in its virtual state. I say there, the forms of this cultural cartography in its actual state, and here the forces as a word in a virtual state. But the virtual here is not the technological virtual, no? The virtual here is a world that is totally there in our body. It's what I call real, because the other side is the reality. This is the real, it is there. It's no, where is the Florian? Florian, hi. It's not abstract. sense at all, because it's totally there. It's the most material, real presence, no? It's there. And at the same time, it has no image, no words, but it is there. So it's a world, it's a virtual world because it's there, but it can virtually take shape, no? Okay? And I call it an impersonal instead of personal. It's an experience of the subjectivity, but not a personal, but an impersonal. Because it's exactly the presence, the real presence of the world in my body. It's not, oh, I am very nice and I'm very concerned about what's going on around me. No, it's the world in my body. No, okay. So impersonal, intensive instead of sensible, because now we are not talking about perception, visual, audio, perception. We are talking about affects, intensities. So impersonal, intensive, aesthetic. Now I come back with my aesthetic, with my provocation. Aesthetic experience, because I could invent another word to say that, but I put aesthetic exactly as a strategy to take out aesthetic from the Western tradition with forms and the best, or in the best case, sensibility. This is another kind of experience, and we will see that it's a very, very important experience. And this unease between them, I can go on? You have some doubts here because I go on. You can say, because it's totally crazy what I'm saying, so you are totally, you have the right to say that you are not understanding nothing. I can explain it again. Huh? Hour. Okay, let's go. Nice to tell me, Sigrid, because I have a problem with the chronological time. Please. So, I'll go a little bit faster because it's okay, no? You are. The uncanny, in English we say uncanny. Uncanny is strangeness and familiarity at once. In Latin language we say, in Spanish, Portuguese, French, we say strange and familiar. But strange is something else in English, etc. Bon, not to lose the time, strangeness and familiarity at once. The unavoidable paradox between the two inseparable experience of a world applies a question mark to subjectivity. No? Because we are, at the same time, making the experience of forces and of forms, cultural, structural. No? And this unease, this new state, né? This new way of seeing and feeling, without words and images, produce a kind of question mark. It puts a problem. It applies. He applies a question mark, no, a problem. Something is there, pulsating, and you are destabilized, and this experience is very, very, very important. And in Western culture, this tradition, this experience, we'll see how we deal with this experience, which is very pathological. So you see, I put the question mark at the same size of the man. We become a question mark, okay? The pulsation of that new problem impels desire to act in order to recover an equilibrium. It's not the subject that acts, it's the desire. No? When I am like Harry, totally destabilized without self-image, without nothing like that, in this unease, no? Desire is convoked in order to act, to recover an equilibrium. But the way desire will recover this equilibrium makes totally different effects. And I will finish with this. Finish now is this, and then I come back to creator quickly and we finish. Okay? Okay? Please tell me. Yeah, and you too, Director Abdelhalde, please. So, we are this, the world as a maybe a surface, you have forms and forces, the guy is there, no? And there is this, necessarily, this question mark. And then the way that desire will react to this question mark and will act in order to recover equilibrium, this is what differentiates micropolitics, different micropolitics. So now I will make these fictional streams, as I made with Ligia Clark, no? Antagonist perspectives of desire actions. Now, from one side here, active micropolitics and its ethical compass, shifting from the colonial unconscious. I will show that. So, from one side, what will happen is that desire will try to recover the equilibrium through a process of creation and impulsed by this problem, by the question mark. The question mark is there, and it's the question mark that orientates desire in order to invent something, to make sensible, to concretize this virtual world, which is in this question mark in my disquietude, but it is there, it's real. And I invent something that can be a work of art, but it can be another way of living, another way of loving, a gesture, no? Where this new experience of the world will be there. And the fact is that it will change, transform the actual cartography. It's an effect of differentiation, of changing. Okay? So this is the active micropolitics, ethical compass, because what is orientating this kind of cut, this kind of act of the desire, is life itself. It's when life is suffocated in some cultural cartography, life, this new experience of life that can't be expressed through our repertoire, no? The fact that we create something in order to concretize this new experience, no? Is we had as criterion, or as, como é que fala agulha? Needle. The needle of my compass is life itself, no? It's in order that life can go on breathing, okay? But we'll see the image. So, active micropolitics and an ethical compass, shifting from colonial unconscious. An anthropophagic perspective, relational heterogenetic becoming singularities, no? This kind of micropolitics, or this kind of action of desire in order to recover the equilibrium, is relational, it's heterogenetic because it produces differences, it's a process of becoming, and it produces singularity. And the other side, you see this poor man just right there, and see this kind of guy here and this guy there. Reactive micropolitics and its moral compass. So when we don't have, what characterizes colonial unconscious is to have all this experience totally obstructed. I called knowing body, this knowing about the forces, no? The affects. So what characterizes colonial in the large sense since today of integrate worldwide capitalism, colonial in that sense, is to have this experience totally anesthetized and the knowing body totally obstructed. So how can desire recover an equilibrium if he is in this question mark? No, the subjectivity has this question mark, this problem. Desire must act to recover. How can he do it if you have no access to knowing body, to the virtual world that is there, seeking to find the way to concretize itself? And also subjectivity don't have any ways, any recursos, resources, instruments, resources, instruments, to deal with this unease, this destabilization, this out-of-focus experience. When we don't have that, and this experience of unease, of destabilization without image, etc., this experience, when we don't have the other capacity of the other knowing, this experience is interpreted by the subject, by ego. And ego, ego is a very important part of us. It's not a shit, it's nice, okay? But it has a very specific function, which is to, he's a kind of manager, or subject also, kind of manager of our, the possibility to live in some cultural repertoire, no? Ego is the manager of that. If we didn't have that, we have nothing, no possible relation. It's okay, but the ego is just a manager. And the problem is that when he is obliged to interpret this state of strangeness, the only thing he has as a criterion, they love me or they don't love me. They are recognizing me or they are not recognizing me. Am I participating in this community or I am excluded? That's all. It's very poor, very, very poor, no? So, so what subject can do when we don't have the access to out of the subject in our subjectivity, to recover an equilibrium, I will choose something in the actual cartography and I will reaccommodate it quickly to have the impression that it makes sense again. No, for instance, a woman, a normal anthropophallo ego-logocentric woman. No? I am in this strange experience. Oh, I am becoming a very ugly woman. Nobody desires me. What can I do? So I buy the Vogue magazine if I am rich, or the other magazine if I am middle class. And I buy all those cosmetics and all those clothes, and oof, okay. And I feel that I have a shape and I have a sense. Again, I recovered my sense. So I call it, as you see, I call it, reactive micropolitics. It's moral compass, because what I take, the compass I have, his needle points toward something in the actual cartography. That's why I called it moral. It's a moral system. Moral in the large sense of habit, cultural habits, etc. No, it can be my needle can point to Deleuze or Marx, and I can repeat that, and oof, okay, everything makes sense again. But I can't also. The evangelic church is the same, or self-help. In that relation too, is the same Deleuze, Marx, or self-help, no? Or the Vogue magazine. Bon. So reproducing colonial conscious, and this is, I call the other one anthropophagic, but I will not speak about that, but Hof spoke a little bit yesterday about that, a little bit, not a lot, but I will not speak about that. But the other micropolitics, anthropophallo ego logocentric perspective, which is individualized, because my desire is not acting from the effects of the relation, my living relation with the world. Is individualized, no? Homogenetic, because it produces the same repetition. Identitarian instead of becoming, and university capitalistic instead of singularities. So let's just see the two ways. The reactive micropolitics, the reproduction colonial conscious, I cut, always avoiding the question mark and just choosing something in my cultural cartography to make to cut, then I go on and I go on and I go on with the subject. Ooh, the subject, there, subject. And then the effect is this, the action of desire has produced the same generic life, sterile life, death-like life. You see the difference, darlings? Let's go on. Active micropolitics, no? Shifting from colonial conscious. So, I choose a point to cut, oriented by the question mark, no? Tak, 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 voila. The action of design has produced a different. This is the kind of result of this kind of position, micropolitics position, of this kind of politics of desire. It produces a singular life, noble life. Noble because it responds to life. Na altura da vida, como que é? Altura da vida. É, altura do acontecimento. Be? Worthy. Worthy não é muito bom, né? Worthy of life, but to be there where life is putting you, no? Singular life, noble life, a life. Because the other one is a generic life, it's not a life, no? Okay. So, to finish, I just come back 1 minute to curatorial practice, and then we can share during discussion. But this, the colonial unconscious, the colonial in this large sense that I described at the beginning, as I said, is characterized by the obstruction of knowing body, by the reduction of subjectivity to the subject, that means the totally inexistence of the other, no? The other. A maximum, if I am left, I can say, oh, you are so cute, I will include you, come, I respect your difference, no? But the other is there, okay? It's totally different of this real presence of the other in your body, unleashing and desire act and a becoming of yourself and of your relations and of the world, no? And this is a very bad disease. It's a very grave, né? Grave pathological, historical pathology. Grave historical pathology. Because it's very simple, because what orientates us is not what life is demanding, it's not the real presence of the otherness in our body, it's not that responsibility to our life, but it is just like zombies, something in the actual cartography, which can be Marx or Paulo Coelho, self-help, because there is no creation of something that life is demanding. And I think also that it's very nice the period we are living, because it's awful, the crisis we are living, very dangerous, very, very dangerous, because it's like a little bit similar that the Weimar Republic, no? Joaquin, where we are talking about that, don't you remember? Joaquin. But, and in Brazil, actually it's terrible what's going on. Terrible, very, very dangerous, okay. But at the same time, I think that we reach a limit, very interesting limit of the Western anthropophalo egocentric micropolitics of Western modernity. We reach a limit with all the destinies of the revolutions in 20th century, but now we, from South America, with the destiny of our left governments there, what's going on now, no? And this makes us, for me, no, I want to share this with you, this makes me feel that from one side I'm so grateful to all the history of the left, and I am a left people, of course. It's the minimum we can be is to be a left, you know, it's the minimum. But left is the limit, the most wonderful limit of this anthropophallo-egocentric micropolitics. It's the limit, it's civil rights regime. Those people, they want justice in the civil rights, the equality in distribution of civil rights, etc., etc. So this is it's the best we can. And it's incredible that since French Revolution until now, we had many, many, many fantastic people that lutaram, fought, struggle. They struggle to have that, no? So I'm so grateful, we should be so grateful. But also it's very nice because their courage, we can see that it is the limit of the same regime, the same logic, no? Anthropophallo, ego, logocentric logic. And now we need to make a shift, not abandoning this. This is the minimum. Besides that, it's totally psychiatric stuff, no? If it's not left. But we must go on, but we must, we feel that we must conquer this micropolitical resistance too. Graças à esquerda. Thanks to the courage of the left people since the French Revolution. Okay. And this is not something that you can learn and it's okay. It's a kind of struggle in ourselves from the beginning to the end of the life, because it's always there. It's always there again. It's always there because we are structured in that. And in South America, and of course in Africa, and perhaps in Asia, but South America and Africa, we have very strong memory of the knowing body, but it's totally under repression. But we have a responsibility to reactivate it, not to re-begin Indians in the jungle, no, indigenous, but to have this kind of ethical compass in the contemporary. Bon. Of course, the curator is very chic, very glamorous, but he's a human being like us. And he is confronting to the same different choices, no? And as the curator, the figure of curator began as a mediator of this negotiation between the artist interests, the institution interest, the capital interest, and he's the mediator of this negotiation, he can choose to repeat the anthropophallo. That means that in this negotiation he make an alliance with capital and not with art. But in the extreme opposite, he can, in this negotiation, he can keep the knowing body, and he can, and then as a curator, what he will invent has to do with the question mark in himself, and this is what will do him choose or this or that or not that, in order to concretize the question mark through his work, no? In that case, he knows very well what is negotiable, because of course we are in this negotiation, no problem, not against that, no? But in this negotiation, he will know exactly what is innegotiable. Because everything that you impeach? Nossa Senhora, não sabia. Everything that will impeach the pulsation of the question mark that is concretized in this artistic practice, which is very important because if it's pulsating in the artwork, it will have the power of contamination, you know, radiative chaos, you know, as Akira. No, it will have the power of contamination, but if you cut this, if in this negotiation means that this pulsation will not be there, it's not negotiable, not negotiable. Because the effect is not only that this question mark will not be there and will not have the possibility to convoke this experience in its public, but it's worse because it will offer an object that will reinforce the colonial conscience in its public. So it's not neutral, it's not, it's a pity, No, it's very grave, very, very grave. So perhaps I will finish saying that this presentation is dedicated to all curators who, with their acts of creation, driven by desire, try to convert, revert, pervert, subvert, deprogram, deinstall, deestablish, defigure, deconfigure, defetishize, disarm, undo, take down, empty, or simply quit the colonial conscience. Okay? And now I will let this, because this is the instructions to do that. It's very simple, but we can manage that during our conversation. Thank you. Voilà.
People want to read it. Well, Suli, thank you so much for these provocative and extremely suggestive thoughts for a Sunday morning. I feel like we should go back to the French Revolution and start again, which is a significant affect for... I think in the interest of time, we're going to go right away to your responses and questions, because I think I can feel in the room that people want to respond, and I think we have very little time. So why don't we start by opening the floor to your feedback.
Let's do a workshop together in the direction of healthcare system. I'm very amazed by your talk. I've never listened to such a complex, precise thing. I must admit that I'm a Deleuze fan and Guattari, but okay, you're right. You're completely right. Okay, I have tried to learn this.
Excuse me.
No, you're right.
Thank you.
I think there are all the ingredients to do workshops, to do get-togethers with the other realms. And one nice example at the moment happens in Karlsruhe, ZKM. You can look in the homepage of Infosphere. I think they're getting similar, near to this project. And let's talk later and try to organize... Oh, really? Oh. And my question could be, shall we start in Europe or in Brazil? That's my question.
Okay.
Shall we start to organize a workshop in Brazil or in Europe?
Se ele está perguntando? I like to do those workshops everywhere where I feel that there is a real need and decision to make this shift. If not, I don't accept. For instance, this year they invited me to make a conference in Princeton. And for Brazilians, it could be, the summer, my conference in Princeton. And I said no immediately because I knew that it would make it so tired because they were calling me just to have a new chic bunch of concepts. So I don't want that. I don't have time to lose. Let's my Andre friend says, yeah, I don't have time to lose. Not only because I'm an old woman, but because things are going very bad. And then in the same week, a girl called me from Tocantins, which is a place in central Brazil that I never been, that I know anything about, Center North, and inviting me to a dance festival there. I didn't know this girl. I never heard about this dance festival in Brazil. I know nothing about Tocantins. I only know that there are great cultures, indigenous culture there, that's all. And I accept immediately. So I accept to do, I like and I need, and it's part of my work to do those workshops, but only when I really feel that there is a real need to work together, to think together. If not, no, I'm not interested at all in just making an academic staff to academic students that will repeat it as the new vogue of theoretical bullshit. No.
Thanks. Judy.
Thank you, Suli. Okay, I'm jumping in. I'm way in over my head here, but there's a word that I keep questioning when you talk about, in its experience as an outside of the subject, impersonal, intensive, aesthetic experience, the knowing body, which I love. And I keep saying, why impersonal? And then you explained why impersonal, and I still have a question. Yes. I was like, can we get... I can't think of anything more personal, and maybe that's not the right word, than the world in my body. So it's like hyper-personal or intimate, maybe. Intimate, intensive, or maybe it's the relationship of impersonal and aesthetic in the same phrase that sort of jolts me out instead of in. Just a question or a thought.
No, you are totally right, because I have many problems with that word that changes 1,000 times. And today I retake it again because I didn't, hey, I'm talking with you. I replaced this word 1,000 times. And many years ago I put impersonal, and now I quit because of that. Because impersonal, I don't know in English, but in Latin language, impersonal means something neutral, totally, no? We don't put yourself there, no? That's not, well, in the philosophical tradition it makes sense, but I'm not, as you could see, my choice of words has to do always strategical. Which word will really will be bearer of this experience in order to have its effects, not to affect the other, no? So impersonal is not a good word, but intimacy is a good, but it's not. It doesn't guarantee, because you can have a psychological intimacy, no, and you can have this intensive intimacy. What Lisa Clark was searching with this work that Andrea was talking yesterday is exactly to make the conditions of this other kind of intimacy. In that case, I love this word, but I must explain you if I didn't find a word to say that this is subjectivity, yet it is subjectivity experience, but it is out of subject. So it's not personal, but because personal has to do with the subject. That's why they called philosophically in this tradition impersonal. But for us, with the use of everyday use of language, it doesn't work. So if we can invent another word here, it's fantastic. But I agree with you. Thank you.
I had a question about what you said about the curator's ethical body compass and being active and reactive in a kind of micro-political sense, and how to reconcile that with curatorial practice. I'm thinking of an old debate about curation, about whether the curator is a reactive figure reacting to artists finding a body to express their subjectivity, or whether the curator is an active participant in the kind of contemporary creative sense of the curator, in which it's the curator's subjectivity which is then inhabited by, or maybe even forced upon artists' bodies? Or is that a false dualism? But how do we reconcile that question with what you say about the ethical reaction and
Yes.
activity?
No, first of all, I think it's important to your question also because as I presented it, it is like if they are the bad one and the good one and the opposition. I said at the beginning that they are fictional, no, fictitious or fictional prototypes, because nobody's like that, no? We had all those vectors in our actions all the time, and this is the fight. This is the resistance, how I fight, or how I shift that in my own actions, in my relations, in my own quotidianity, no? This is the fight. There is no the bad and the good. I am totally stupid. I have done very stupid, very active stuff in my life, no? But this is the difference between a person, a totally reactive person, a pathological one, and a healthy one, is to recognize that this fight is the essential work for a life, from the beginning to the end. No, to be aware that you must resist that, no, in your gestures or acts or quotidianity. No, first of all, this. A second way to answer your question, I think, is to give an example. No, it's perhaps good, no, for example of active curating, no, or creating curator, and not manager curator, no? Because it's the most recent example I have. We are 2 weeks. Akira is not there. Quem que está aqui que estava lá? No, excuse me. Who is? Huh? Jacqueline was there. Jackie, onde que está Jackie? Jackie, she disappeared. She disappeared. No, it was in Cologne. Joachim, Katja disappeared. Katja, Joachim, Katja. Rolf, please. Okay, it's this project of Joachim. I don't know all the words. No Siemens, I don't know what. And the Goethe Institute. Okay, together, and it's a project linked with South America. Okay, and in different places. And one of the places this project is going on is in Colombia, in Bogota. And in each country, they make a link with a local platform. And then in Bogota, they choose Mapa Teatro, Rolf and Heidi project. Okay. So I participate for the first one because it's twice a year, no? I participate the first one, and now I participate of the fourth one. And I want just to share with you this fourth one experience. They invite, this project in Colombia is called Experimenta South, okay? And they make a convocation to receive a, como é que fala bolsa de estudo? Sempre esqueço. Grant. They have 20 grants to Latin American people of all Latin America. They have many candidates. This time they had 250 candidates, and then they must choose 20. Okay, those 20 people who have a very intensive day and night work in Bogota, and they invite people to make lectures, different things, lectures, workshops, work presentation. And this time they invite Akira, radiating cows, né? Akira, to make a workshop, a 3 days workshop. 3 or 4? 3, né? 20 days workshop. No, because the beginning was the master and then... Well, okay, 20 days workshop. A part of it is in their master and the other part is Experimenta. And then Peter Pelbart, Brazilian philosopher, friend of us. And then José Antonio Sanchez from Spain, Lia Rodrigues, the dancer from Brazil. But the sequence was very interesting because it begins with Akira with the group of granted people with the grant, and to try to go into the experience of catastrophe. This was the problem he brought. No, his question mark, catastrophe. He was thinking about natural catastrophe, his experience, recent experience in Japan, like the radiated cow. But everyone should go into this experience, and it was very difficult because, first of all, you must go to the knowing body, memory of knowing body, and then try to say something about this experience, and then you are Latin American and he's Japanese, the subjectivity is totally different, feelings doesn't exist to expose feelings there, and here, oh, Latin feeling, total mess, they are totally desperate, everybody, totally desperate. Harry, como chama o cineasta lá? Woody Allen Harry is nothing comparing to those boys and girls there, and even Akira, totally, and Rolf and Heidi together, and they were supposed to present something at the end of this workshop, and Rolf well, the project has rented parking, old parking, to do this result of this workshop. And they were desperate because everything I'm describing, and por cima disso, and on top of that, they should present something at the end of the 3 days in this parking. It was a public presentation. And, it was, and in the day before the presentation, something happened that they discovered that this is the stuff. This is the, first of all, this is the experience. It has no words and images so quick. Second, the experience that it's totally violent to oblige you to present that when you make a project to have money, that tac, and then that day, it's impossible because it's an abortion. It's impossible. They could invent n'importe quoi, né? But it was too early, and so it was the miracle of creation was there. Each one of them was in the park with his experience of catastrophe, of strangeness. It was this is the first gesture. So all the group was already in this kind of mood. Then came Peter Pelbart that make the same thing because he make philosophy through. He make this work to reactivate knowing body through philosophy. So are you? To resume, thank you. To resume, each intervention was one more experience of activating knowing body through different ways. And also it was the presentation of Lia Rodrigues and then the presentation of Rodrigo Garcia. Bon, this we can talk later. And then it was my workshop. I didn't make lecture as I've done the first one. And to my workshop, they came just there, totally with their knowing body. Estavam prontos para super trabalho. Como é que fala? Prontos. They are totally ready to have incredible work with them. So for me, this is a very nice example of curating in the field of performing arts, theater, etc., etc.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me, I don't have the chronological.
No, it's wonderful. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Sueli. Thank you, everyone, for your comments.